Welcome to the inaugural SRT podcast. I want to give a shout out real quick to Sohail for giving this idea and giving it. You'll be hearing from me on some shorter length podcasts throughout the year as kind of an update when I have time and have people come on. But for the first, I wanted to bring on Doug because he's the only one up at 11:30 that I can get wrangled into doing this and force me to listen to my tirades on the draft. But before we get started, I wanted to give everybody a proper introduction. Hyped up for the 21st SRT. Are you ready to rotate out, Doug?
I'm always ready. Rotating out players.
Okay. So Doug, why don't you tell everybody kind of what you did to kind of prepare for this? Because you put some you took my stat boy relatives and kind of took it with your own spin.
I mean, basically the same as I looked at some mock drafts. I looked at hashtag. I did draft wizards. With the note, I took a while to decide between the number 2 and the number 3 pick. Just because I thought maybe I could get Luka at the 3rd, because I figured Harden would go first and then AD would go second if you went number 2, because Luka was what I wanted. Then once I figured out Luka was going number 1, I was like, well, I'm just going to keep number 2 and then just take AD. I didn't feel great about it because I hate the Lakers and I don't like cheering for them, and I wasn't really sure how to build the team. But the best part about AD is you can build a team with any set. You can go any direction with AD, which is not always the case even for Luka or Harden. Harden's stats, if it wasn't for the overwhelming, or if it wasn't for the trade rumors and everything, I would have taken Harden. His stats are just overwhelming, and we can get to him when we get to your team, but. So it was more trying to figure out how to build the team around AD. And when I kept doing draft wizards, I kept coming across Ben Simmons and occasionally
for everyone that doesn't know, a tool that I found, I think it was last year, and I shared with Doug, is a site called Draft Wizards, and it's a mock draft tool that computer simulates picks, and you can do options based, whether it's Yahoo positions, like ESPN positions. You can pick, if you're a premium member, which I was last year, mostly for great draft grades and stuff, you can set all sorts of draft orders and cool things. And so the nice thing about that is I could set the positions if you go to Draft Wizards, and you can set like the positions that are in your league, and it'll simulate your picks and all sorts of stuff. So it's a really way to do fast mock drafts without having to wait for Yahoo generated stuff. But I think Doug and I shared a lot of the same rankings that we use, whether it's hashtag basketball or just Yahoo or creating our own. But that's kind of the thing. I actually think that the format we did, where we only had 9 drafts, made it really interesting because looking at everyone's team, there ain't no scrubs with like 2 exceptions, and we will get to them. LaMelo.
Yeah, Ball. It was the 9 rounds is weird. It's not bad. It's just different because you look at the waiver wire right now, and it is totally different than last year, where it was 14 teams in 12 rounds. You got Gallinari, Conley, Rashawn Holmes was was trying to be traded all last year because of his stats. Bertans is 3. Duncan Robinson is the best 3-pointer, one of the best 3-pointers in the league.
So I think it'll make it easier. I think what's going to happen is, and this is my thing. I think people are going to have to quickly learn that the end of your bench, those last 2 or 3 guys, don't hold on to them. Like you drafted Montrezl Harrell, and if Montrezl Harrell has a 2-game week or has a bad week or whatever, drop him to somebody else.
Yeah,
it's better to stream and better to get the things that you need.
The only thing that worries me is that it kind of homogenizes everyone because we all have good players at that point. And it does come down to how you build your team and the way you stacked your stats. But because we don't, the league's just not as, it's more condensed. Maybe it may make it they're more parity, but I don't know if that necessarily makes it better. Just because everyone might be winning 5-4 or 4-5 just because we're all so close. That was my main concern. But
So both Doug and I created, similar to my weekly power rankings that I do, we both created kind of power rankings based on the stats that are projected. Doug used hashtag basketball's projections. I used Yahoo's projections for player totals, and kind of figured out based on those rankings what they project. Assuming we kept our teams and all players would be able to play all their maximum games, none of which are good assumptions, but just for what the teams are now, they give us a power rankings, and we'll go over that when we talk about draft grades a little bit. But I kind of separated into I'll talk about my rankings first. Somehow I was at the top, as I did not skew the rankings, but I am by far the top team according to the Yahoo projections, because according to Yahoo, I'm the best team in threes, I'm the best team in points, I'm the best team in blocks, and somehow I'm the best team in turnovers, which I don't believe.
I don't believe
one of the top teams in free throws. But the other teams at the top were Justin and Andrew, Mark, and then Doug, and actually Chris's team. Peter is kind of the last end of that top team, and then there's a middle portion of the team, which was Julian, Dan, Sohail, Sandeep, with David and Johnny. The rankings not liking them as much, and generally the hashtag ranks that you put out were generally the same. They were a little bit more condensed than my rankings, but the bottom, and your teams were.
It really hated the Monstars. That's the one standout on the hashtag.
And I think that's just because, and we're going to talk to that. I think a lot of that is Johnny's strategy was to take a lot of risks on a lot of risky players, and that included KD, Oladipo, and some other players. But like if KD returns to form, getting him at 11, even with some rest and stuff, that's a monster thing. So I think the big key here is because of the smaller rosters, I think people should be encouraged to trade because, as I said, everybody's got good players, so it's easier to trade, and you should be less dependent on your good players. With that, let's get into the teams. So first, let's talk about the number one pick, which was Julian. According to my stats, Julian is right in the middle of the pack. He is a poor field goal percentage team, but the best free throw percentage and one of the best 3 points teams, and then is very competitive in points and turnovers and kind of middle of the pack for rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. So where did you kind of project Julian just before getting to players and stuff?
Just with hashtag, he's projected fourth, same thing. Number one in free throws, number two in threes, number one in points, and then just kind of middle across the board on everything else. I like those type of strategies where you're elite in a few categories and then you're at least mediocre in everything else. I think that's some of the best strategies. As far as his draft is concerned, that's just with projections, including injured players like a KP. That's probably my biggest complaint about his draft is taking Luka and then overdrafting KP in the fifth. So you're stacking on a single team. They could either both get COVID or they could, KP's injured and he's took him 49th. Now I love KP. I took him last year. His numbers fit his, like a lot of teams, just blocks, threes, rebounds, points, like on, not the best percentages, but also not the worst. He's an awesome player, but it's just overtaking him 49th when you already have Luka is a massive, massive risk. And I don't like it.
Julian and I ended up targeting a lot of the same players because when you draft Luka, you're drafting similar stats to Harden. The difference between Luka and honestly, like hashtag basketball has Luka as the 9th best prospect. But I'll tell you this. If Julian didn't take him 1, you were taking him 2. And if you didn't take him 2, I was taking him 3.
Right.
And now that's a hype factor. And that's also a personal enjoyment of watching him. And the reason hashtag has him 9th overall is his field goal percentage and free throw percentages aren't elite. They're not bad, 45% and 70%. They're not bad, but they're not that elite, like Harden level free throw percentage, or they're not that elite, like, big man percentages or Giannis percentage. And the other problem is he gets you massive points, rebounds, assists, but those defensive stats just aren't there. But I mean, and we'll talk about this when we get to Giannis. The difference between him and Giannis is Giannis gets a little bit more defensive stats, but he's not a monster defensive stat guy. The difference is Luka really doesn't hurt you, though he might lead the league in turnovers. I personally just don't give any weight to turnovers because if you're the only teams that really compete in turnovers are usually just the bad teams that have bad players. So I really liked the Luka pick because I would have done the same thing. My criticism there is the same as you when it comes down to that the draft strategy on drafting KP in the fourth, late in the I think it was technically in the fifth round when he actually technically
is the first pick in the 5th round.
Yeah, and partially because I wanted him, and I didn't think I picked Miles Turner because I'm like, okay, he's not going to take Kristaps because he's only had 3 players at that point because he had a massive trade up, and I think that's going to make or break him. Remember, he was drafting at the end of the rounds 2, and he moved up to the first pick of round 2, which effectively is what he ended up trading. He ended up trading Kyrie and Nurkic for Devin Booker and Brandon Clark. That's essentially what the trade was.
So that's another criticism I have. So one, I think Robert Covington's numbers are going to go down to his Houston. I think he's going to go closer to what he had in Philly, which he's losing, about a half a block, and he's losing 3 rebounds a game, and you're taking that in the 4th round. I think Covington's good, but I just don't think he's as good as he'll be as when he was on Houston. His numbers were a little inflated because of the position he was playing. And then you have a Nurkic, you have a Zach Collins in Portland. He's not playing center, and so he's just not getting those blocks. And his numbers are still good. I just think it was maybe a bit of a reach going into Covington. So it was a bit of a risk taken, not really a risk, but I just don't think his value is there in that same position. Taking a huge risk for Kristaps, and Brandon Clark is another huge risk in the sense that he only averaged I think 22 minutes a game last year. Is that going to go up? Is it going to stay the same? If it's the same, his value is just not there for another 5th round pick. So the
one thing about Brandon Clark is he was a rookie. He'll get better in his 2nd year. He will essentially get more minutes early on while Triple J is out on some level. And I like Brandon Clark. His value comes in his monster field goal percentage, and will that be sustainable as he gets more shots? But
also, but if you're going for this awesome field goal percentage, you took Luka and Kristaps, which are high volume, not great field goal percentage. So is Brandon Clark really going to make that difference? I don't know.
So for the 3 categories I always do, and Julian, the first one is the worst pick I think he had was that Porzingis pick, and not because Porzingis is bad or he's injured. It's just a short roster. He had traded up, and this goes, his most controversial was the Devin Booker trade up to get the guy he wanted, Devin Booker.
I like his first 2 picks. I don't mind the trade up.
It was just the trade up's the most controversial because now he sacrificed essentially his 3rd round pick to move up to get it. And then by taking Porzingis, he didn't fill out his roster as fast.
Right.
But I will say this, his best picks were in the 8th round. I love getting Bogdanovich in the 8th round, who's a 20-point scorer, 3-point machine. Yeah, he's a specialist. There ain't a lot of 20-point, 3-point guys that shoot good percentages.
Right.
I also love Marcus Smart this year because there's no Gordon Hayward, so some of those shots got to go somewhere. And with Kemba being out early, Marcus is going to cook. And if you don't care about field goal percentage, Marcus can get you some steals. He can get you some threes. He'll get you a little bit of everything. I really
with him though, that's another knock against picking Brandon Clark. Is he's got Colin Sexton and Marcus Smart. It's just they're at odds with Luke. They're just at odds with this field goal percentage. It doesn't make sense.
And that shows in the rankings. His field goal percentage he ranks is the 4th worst, and along with assists and steals. So he doesn't have a lot of that stuff. He's relying on Luka to generate a lot of assists. I think, but I think I like a lot of Julian's things. I'm going to give him a straight B for my draft grade. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd probably put him at a B because I think it's just that middle round. It's just maybe a B- because of those, but his late round picks really fill out his team really well, and I liked his first 2 picks. So
we're going to skip Doug and I and go right to number 4, the returning guru, Chris. Chris and the Dream Team, which was the most confusing thing because I had the Dream Team and I had the Dream Shakers, and I had to keep remembering who was Sandeep and who was.
I don't know anyone's teams. I just know people's names because that's what it's on the draft.
Chris took Giannis. I've talked a little bit about Giannis going at number. He's this 13th ranked player in fantasy. I just don't think that's an accurate projection because his being able to get 30 and 15 every night with defensive stats is just in a monster field goal percentage. That's just, I just look at it like these are Shaq numbers. Shaq put up 30 and 15.
The
field
problem
goal
with the
percentage-
rankings is it's the Otto Porter Jr. syndrome. They value even keel or Tobias Harris, or they value these good across the board numbers, and I just don't think that's the way to go. I actually think you need to be elite in categories to win. So we're in the same field there. But
I think Bradley Beal at 21 is the best pick in the entire draft.
I put it as my best pick. I thought it was insane value at the time. I couldn't believe he fell to 21. I know Westbrook is going there.
I was sitting there at 22, and I look at it, and I'm like, oh my God, if I get Bradley Beal and James Harden, just everybody give me your money. It's over. Shut it down. Let's go home.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, if I wasn't sleeping, I may have would have trade for 20 or something like. Yeah, the fact that he was still there. It was
going fast. So I love that Bradley Beal pick. I don't care Westbrook's going there. He flourished with John Wall. And the other thing is people think about this. Oh, Westbrook's going to take shots. Go look at Westbrook's numbers with Paul George. Paul George wasn't a career high, but it was his like a 3-year high with Russell Westbrook. James Harden just scored 35 with Russell Westbrook. Go look at Westbrook and KD in those last seasons. KD's dropping 30. Like Westbrook, we think of him as a ball hog. There's a reason he gets 10 assists. He's going to feed other players. Now, whether he does that efficiently is a whole other story. But Bradley Beal is going to get some fucking points. The rest of Chris, and so my projections, we skipped over that. My projections for Chris puts him as the 5th best team. He is the 2nd best field goal percentage team. He's the 2nd best points team. He is the best rebounding team, and he's the best blocking team. Where his struggles are going to be are free throws, 3 points, and assists and steals.
So my projections are a little different. I have him. He falls all the way to 8th on mine. Number 2 in field goals, number 3 in rebounds, number 3 in blocks, and everything else. Well, he's really bad at free throws, really bad at threes, and middle of the ground on everything else.
That's the thing is I actually think Bradley Beal is such a great pick for him. He needed to take it, but it actually doesn't fit with a lot of his other parts of the team.
Right.
Whether that's a trade for Bradley Beal and in the rest of his draft after the Bradley Beal, John Collins, everybody has ranked really high. I think Atlanta has too many mouths to feed. I was avoiding everyone not named Trae Young in Atlanta anyway, so that's a little thing. I actually liked Gordon Hayward as a pick. Of course,
I think Gordon Hayward was a very good pick. I wrote that down. He's going from Boston, which had Brown and Tatum at his position. Now he's just got to compete with LaMelo Ball-hog, but I still think he's the primary option on that team.
Especially when he gets back. John Wall, I actually like the pick. He'll miss some games from rest and stuff. That's a good pick. The Whiteside Capella, I understood it. He needed centers.
It fits. It's what you fit with Giannis.
Yep.
And Whiteside is a weird one. His numbers when he plays are insane, but I could also see him out of the league by the end of this year. So I don't know. He could just not play. I don't know what's going to happen. But in Sacramento, he's likely to play.
I didn't hate the Devontae Graham pick at the time, but now I'm looking at the roster and I'm like, that player doesn't fit on this team of high field goal percentage people and stuff. Devontae Graham is just like the guy that's like, get off that team.
Right. The biggest problem I actually have with him is, maybe that was somebody else.
The problem with Devontae Graham in general is there's a timeshare now where there wasn't last year. Last year was Terry Rozier and Devontae Graham. She gets right. They want. Whether you like LaMelo or Gordon Hayward, they're going to take some shots. And Devontae Graham is just, if he's not getting his volume, he's not getting
here's what I hated about what he did is he has almost no shooting guard and small forward depth. If Hayward or Beal gets injured, he's playing either Graham and he got Powell in the last, which is fine. Yep. He's going to have to fill those constantly if either of them get hurt. And Hayward already broke his pinky. Wall, he's just come back from an injury. Beal had been healthy the last couple of years, but he has been beaten up in the past. Like Capella's always injured. Now he has a ton of center depth and power forward depth, but like his depth at the guard positions is not good. Like if one of those guys gets injured, he's just not playing a great player.
And this is where he's basically punting threes. Mm-hmm. The good news is threes are the easiest category to catch up on. And if he can trade some of his center depth, or whether it's Giannis, whether it's those centers they hit or whatever. Even if John Wall, um, something and get or drop Devonte Graham, drop Norman Powell, go get Davis Bertans, go get a hot 3-point shooter and stream threes. You might be able to compete in those threes. I think the threes, and like you said, and I think in general, we'll talk. So shooting small forward, as we are going to learn, is the desert of positions this year, because outside the elite Kawhis, those elite players that hit the small forward in the first round, third, fourth round, there was a run that I really liked, which which actually we'll get a little peek to Sohail. The Middleton, Brown, Oubre, third, fourth, fifth picks basically locked down the small forward position. Because after that, we'll get to Peter. There was a cliff of small forwards that fell off, and everybody was like, "Oh shit, it's a sixth round," and there's no small forwards left.
Yeah.
But for Chris, I think Chris did very well in drafting, and I think the reason Chris's strategy, his team's a little hodgepodge, is Chris went with who's the best available, I'm taking it, and I think he did that pretty well. I think his best pick is the Bradley Beal. I think it's the best pick in the entire draft. His worst pick is Gordon Hayward, but that's only because of the broken finger. I actually like the pick other than that. The most controversial is John Wall, because if John Wall can even get to 18-9 with a steal in that point of the draft, is great. So
yeah,
if he can't and he's done, it's a waste of a pick.
Yeah.
What
I think
grade
he'll
would you?
end up. I think he'll end up making a trade to
Yeah.
one of his centers or big men to try to fill out,
Mhm.
get that guard depth somehow.
What grade are you going to give Chris?
Honestly, I think I'm leaning A minus, maybe B plus.
I'm going to give him A minus. I'm going to give him a B plus. I mostly just I don't like the John Collins pick. Go on to the fourth. We get Dan. Dan I am.
Yep.
Dan goes with Karl-Anthony Towns, and I think this kind of goes into the top three picks of Luka, AD, and Harden are the clear, I think, top three picks.
Yes.
After that, there was a group of safe picks, and that's Jokic, Cat, Lillard, Curry. I put Trae Young in there, and I also put Tatum in there. I think Trae Young and Tatum have a lower ceiling than those other guys, but you know what you're getting from them. I think Cat is a super safe pick. I think he's a super dependable pick, and he kind of just sets up your team exactly what you need. So I think that's a good start. Jimmy Butler, I fucking hate. My new man, Ginobili. I will never like him. I appreciate his value. I think that's right where he got drafted. Should have gotten drafted.
I like Jimmy. I'm a little worried about the rest factor with him, and the fact that he's never played he's only played more than 70 games twice. He played all the games last year, but that was a shortened season. I'm a little worried about that, and he's I think he's 32 now. So that concerns me. That was my biggest concern with him. Otherwise, it was either him or Simmons I was going to try to take. And I figured Butler would go first.
My projection has Dan as one of the worst field goal percentage teams, which doesn't make sense to me. And I'm like, how would that come out? And I'm like, oh, it's because Karl-Anthony Towns is great. Butler's nothing special, fine. SGA is going to see some efficiency drop. Kyle Lowry is not a good field goal percentage. He's 40%. Kevin Love's not a good field goal percentage. Julius Randle's not a good field goal percentage. LaMelo Ball is not a good field goal percentage. And you look like Karl-Anthony Towns, who is this Shaq level 55, 60% field goal shooting guy, is the only guy on the team above 50%. And De'Aaron Fox is the only guy above 48%. And so suddenly you've got a bunch of 45%ers in one monster. And it's like, oh, that's why he's number 2 in field goal percentage. But then from there, he's middle of the pack in free throws. He's middle of the pack in threes. He's the worst team in the league in blocks and turnovers, because all his guards are turnover heavy, and he doesn't have anyone that's a monster blocker, because Cat's not a super monster blocker, and he has no help there. The good news is Dan's counting stats: points, rebounds, assists, steals. He is top 4, and he's the best assist person according to my rankings.
Yeah, best assists and best steals for me in my rankings. But so I like the turnaround going from Cat to Fox and SGA. I think SGA is a great pick because he fills 3 different positions right now. I like Fox coming off of injury back into Sacramento. My least favorite pick by him is by far Julius Randle. I had him
You
last
hate
year.
Julius Randle.
But I had him last year because he let me down. But it's not just that. I think it doesn't even make sense for his team. He's already good in rebounds. He's not helping him in field goal percentage. He doesn't really need the points. Um,
I like
like
Julius Randle for the value, and it
I
doesn't come
did
close. The worst
I
pick in
I
the
just
goddamn
well
draft is
is
LaMelo fucking
yes,
Ball.
that is true.
First off,
I was trying to hold off on that
I
until you
have a
blew him up.
I have a 4-point LaMelo Ball platform. Point number one: rookies suck in fantasy. 1 year, Jason Tatum was awesome, and somebody else was awesome, whatever. Donovan Mitchell was awesome. 1 year. Otherwise, rookies fucking suck. And they're always overdrafted. Zion was drafted, what, like third or fourth round last year, and clearly didn't put it up even before he got injured. You're hoping you got him in the fourth. We'll talk about that later. But like rookies suck. Inefficient rookies that are going to shoot sub 40% and have 37 turnovers a game are going to sink your team. Third, he wasn't even going to get drafted. He wasn't. He was the first rookie off the board. The only other rookie drafted, I think, was James Wiseman, which was like the second to last pick or whatever it was, the fourth to last pick.
Yeah, no.
To get drafted in the 8th round, let's see who else was drafted after him. Just because, but also you were asleep. We all were waiting like 6 hours to get a goddamn LaMelo Ball pick. He was picked. Devontae Graham went right after him. Wiggins, you got Harrell, who I think Hayes was the other rookie drafted.
I picked both of those go on my worst pick list.
I just feel like there were better potential picks. And Ball's
in the 8th round. These are 12th round picks of last year. These are not. Yeah. These don't make sense. If he doesn't drop LaMelo Ball after the first week and he just keeps holding onto him for pride, it's going to sink his team. There's no. I don't see any value coming from Ball. It's only going to make his team worse. It doesn't make sense.
Even if you think he's really good. Here's
my theory.
Case scenario is 12-7-7 with no defensive stats and maybe a 3. That's all. That's pretty good. But now if he's shooting 38% with 3 turnovers, and that's his best case scenario.
Fuck
that noise. Terrible pick. I also think Eric Bledsoe was a bad. I called it my most controversial pick, mostly just because he's not healthy. And I think
in the last round it's fine. I just don't. I think you could have picked him up off the waiver wire. Yeah.
The waiver wire is so quick.
It's honestly, yes. If I'm him, today, I'm dropping these 2 players and picking up 2 other players on the waiver wire. Just that can play.
We know Dan's gonna do trades. I think Dan has great point guard setup. I don't think Jimmy is great for his team. I think Jimmy's the trade piece he moves.
Yeah. I agree.
Or he moves Karl Anthony Towns in a blockbuster and just punts field goal, punts blocks. But I don't really like that strategy in general. Give me a grade for Dan.
I don't hate it. LaMelo Ball just knocks it off an entire grade for me, so it's like C.
I wasn't giving him a B-. I gave him a C+ because goddamn it, LaMelo Ball.
Right. Okay. So C+. I'm good with that.
Next up, we got Sohail with the most predictable first 3 picks I could possibly imagine. If you just told me he's drafting Lillard in the first, he's going to get a big man in the second, and then he's getting Chris Middleton as soon as he possibly can. I knew that was all coming.
My notes for Sohail are honestly very solid to very, very good draft, but incredibly boring. There's nothing exciting about this team, but I don't think it's bad at all. I
actually loved what Sohail did in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. He went and got Middleton, Jaylen Brown, and Kelly Oubre Jr. He basically controls the small forward position. He can trade one of those guys away because everybody's desperate for it. And after Kelly Oubre, you will see when we get to the draft. So let's see. I'm going to go to the draft by rounds. So you can see Oubre here went 9th and the 5th. So if I look at just small forwards afterwards, Brandon Clark went after. There's a big drop off from Oubre to Brandon Clark. And I remember Peter, when he got to round 6 and he's looking for a small forward, he said, I got to take TJ Warren, who's got plantar fasciitis and is definitely a step down from Oubre. And then you got to take Oladipo, who's in a timeshare and he's hurt. Then you got OJ Anunoby, who's good defensive stats, but he's a specialist. Then you're looking at Josh Richardson, Mikal Bridges, Bogdanovich. You're getting some value.
Yeah, it just falls off. They're fine players, but they're not. You don't want them in your starting lineup. They're just
So I love
Dylan.
his small forward based team there. That was the part that I really loved about his draft. And I actually liked his late round pickups. Blake Griffin is a home run swing. If Blake Griffin gets back to what he was 2 years ago and he's dropping 22, 7, 5 with some threes, that's a pick. Kobe
It could
White.
also just I have him as like the biggest upside, but dig it down, he could just be worthless. He could just be done as a career.
But I
So
feel like a
it's
6th round pick where we were picking, and you'll see that's like you look at everybody else's 6th round picks. You know, Colin Sexton, Malcolm Brogdon. I didn't have a 6th round pick. Hassan Whiteside, Kevin Love, Blake Griffin, TJ Warren, Boogie. David didn't have one. Victor Oladipo, and like Buddy Hield. They were all question mark guys.
So what I think he needs, what I think for his team to really, I think he's going to be somewhere in the middle of the pack right now. What I think his team needs is either DeAndre to Ayton to take a step. Maybe he can, if Ayton can get to 3 stocks, like up from, the just hitting 2, like, and then, even if he picks up a little bit in points, or Blake Griffin does come back to form, Jaylen Brown takes another small leap, like,
so
I think Middleton's will be the same. And Oubre.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, I think he needs someone to get into the top teams. I think he needs either someone to take a leap.
Right now, I got Sohill as 6th, right in the middle of the pack field goal percentage, right in the middle of the pack 3 points, right in the middle of the pack rebounds. He is one of the top teams in free throws and points. And he's also pretty good in turnovers because most of his guys are efficient or aren't. The small forwards are good because they're not going to have high turnovers. They're not going to be primary ball handlers. The problem with his team is he is the worst team in assists and steals.
Yep.
And he's not great at blocks. He didn't get big men. He's 4th worst. So the problem there is he has no point guards outside of Lillard, and Lillard's not a great assister. So he's just not competitive in assists.
Well, he definitely went punt assist.
Which is fine.
Maybe.
But I think he just needs another big man besides Ayton and Griffin on his team.
Yes.
I like the Marvin Bagley pick because there's a good chance. And he went Wiseman. He'll drop him because
he hasn't even played yet.
So he'll drop him. I think what'll happen is at some point he'll move one of his small forwards and just upgrade the size, and I think that'll help his team a lot. But for my best pick for him, let's see. I got the best pick for Sohill was the trio of small forwards. His worst pick was James Wiseman. There's a waste. I would have just rather got someone that's going to play me in week 1. The most controversial is Blake Griffin because if he hits in it, it's a home run. If he doesn't, it's a waste of a pick. But I was very fine with the value you got there. Despite his mixed thing, I just think he got a lot of talent. I'm going to give Sohill an A-.
I was going to give him B+. So.
Okay, onward with the show. We have to eventually finish this. So we leave creme caramel. We go to get buckets. Peter Ho's team. My projections got Peter as a really solid team. He is 7th in field goal percentage, or 6th in field goal percentage. He is 2nd in free throws, and then he's like 3rd in turnovers. And then the rest of he's not bad in any categories. He's
literally middle across the board for me, almost everything too.
And then just really good at free throws.
Yep.
So Steph Curry is perfect for that. Good free throw percentage and helps you in all the stuff, doesn't hurt you. And then getting Bam in the 2nd round, Bam was the guy I would have loved to have even more than Bradley Beal. I knew he wasn't getting to me, but I like Bam. And I love Pascal Siakam. The only downside with Pascal Siakam is for some reason he's not small forward eligible, and he should be. But Siakam's not going to get stats worse than he did last year. And then the only problem then is, you get Chris Paul and LaMarcus Aldridge, who are 35 and 36 and have an age problem. But they play.
LaMarcus is coming off an injury, but he's supposed to be starting shooting threes this year, which I think will.
He started maybe a little bit last year. He did start a little bit last year.
And which may help his projections a little bit. TJ Warren's injured, like you said, or I'd be a little bit more supportive of that pick, but I guess as you mentioned, there just wasn't a lot of options at where he picked him. I do expect Horford actually to be kind of have a bounce back year from last year. He's old, but I think he'll put up numbers. And
the problem you saw with Horford on both the Boston and Philly versions, he wasn't getting points and rebounds. He was getting assists because they were running the offense a lot through him, and he was getting his stocks, and those were good. But he wasn't getting points and rebounds because he's like, those good other people.
Yeah.
On Oklahoma City, he's going to get them just by virtue of there's there's no other big man.
I think he wants to play well so he can get traded too.
Yeah. That was what I said for Peter. I think actually his best pick was Siakam, because in the third round, getting a 22-8, good steal, good block, good field goal percentage, some threes, which is good value. The worst pick for me was he didn't get a small forward until round 6, and he's got TJ Warren, and that's just not good enough.
Yeah.
The most controversial is the old man CP3, LaMarcus Aldridge. But honestly, if those guys put up,
I actually really like CP3.
I just call it controversial because if they work, they're going to help him buoy his team. If they fail, he's in a little bit of a hard spot because he doesn't have a lot of tradable assets. I didn't have a problem with him filling out his roster. I think it was a very solid thing. I
think this is a definition of a B.
It's uninspiring is the problem. Yeah. It's just like, I wish there's no surprise. Chris Paul and LaMarcus Aldridge are known quantities. There's nobody here that could take a leap up. Aaron Gordon and Bogdan and Horford. Nobody's going up a level. The only chance you got of that is Steph Curry. This is what we thought last year when Dow drafted.
When he's going back to his MVP form.
I'm gonna go 30 points, 5 threes, bucket. And there's a chance that happens. I don't personally see it, but if that happens, I forget who had him his first breakout year. He carried that team. Whatever those first 2/3 of the season where he's shooting 5 threes a game. It's the same thing that James Harden, I'm hoping, does for me, which we'll get there. So I think a B is fair. I would shade him. I would actually give him a B plus just because I like the early part of his draft, but that's a fair turn.
Yep.
Oh, the Dream Shakers. Now we're on to Sandeep.
Okay, so my first word for this draft is oif. This team is a mess.
So your rankings have him second worst. My rankings have him third worst. My rankings have him. So the good news, let's start there. Best steals team. Pretty top assist team. And we're out of good news. He's not terrible. He is so he's not terrible at threes. Best steals, pretty good assists. He is bottom half of the league in field goal percentage, in free throw percentage. He's the worst team in points, bottom half in rebounds, second to worst in blocks, and bottom half in turnovers. That's not good.
I don't understand going Paul George into LeBron. Paul George just made the worst playoff brick in history. We just talked shit about him all week. And I like Paul George. I liked him at number 22 or 23 or 20. I just don't. Oh man, I don't like that pick.
I actually disagree. Had Paul George been there, I was taking him with Harden. He shoots a crazy amount of threes.
At 15?
No, he would have been, for me.
You could have picked 15.
Well, Paul George was 16. Had he been there, I would have picked him at 22.
No, I'm just saying he's a better value later. So he went LeBron into Paul George. Well, first of all, I think LeBron's actually a bad pick right now as well. How much is this guy going to play this season? They basically admitted, he just basically said he's not going to play back-to-backs. And he's got major thorns in his game right now too. His free throws suck. He turns the ball over a lot still. Those first
you
two
and
picks,
I both don't like Sandeep's draft, but we like it for entirely different reasons. So I love the Paul George and LeBron James picks because LeBron James has never not been a top 10 player. Now the problem is he's never been the top 2 player, but he's always going to be that top 10. I think he's going to miss the first few weeks, so it'll be a little slow. But he's always going to play. He's going to play his way into shape. And I love the Paul George pick. Paul George shoots a ton of threes. He gets steals. He gets points. His field goal percentage is but he's as good as Donovan Mitchell and Zach LaVine and all those guys that you get. It's a little bit early, but at least I think there might be a Paul George bounce back. I got to prove something. I'm not going to rest. I can buy that. So those 2 picks I bought. The Jokic pitch I love. I almost took him at third.
I think Jokic that was his best pick.
So the problem,
not that he had much choice.
I actually agree with that. Jokic is his best pick. The worst pick I got for him is DeJounte Murray. I don't like DeJounte Murray. I think he's in his 4th year. Derek White is taking his minutes. I think it was just a bad pick, but it's a low value pick. The problem with his draft comes in the
6th round. He had those three 6th-round picks. This is where his draft falls apart.
Yep.
He gets out of 3, he trades and gets these 3 6th-round picks. Okay, he's going to fill out his team. He gets DeJounte Murray, Jaren Jackson Jr., who's hurt, and DeMarcus Cousins, who hasn't played in 2.5 years. What are you doing?
Well, but the problem is he followed up those 3 guys on Michael Porter Jr., who is an overdraft player. If Michael Porter Jr. averages Tobias Harris's numbers, everybody would be ecstatic. He got drafted before Tobias Harris, I think, when I drafted Tobias Harris. And I'm not just talking him up because he's on my team. I'm just saying Tobias Harris was drafted 51. Michael Porter Jr. was drafted 56. If he gets Tobias Harris numbers, you're ecstatic. But he's an injury risk, and he's an unknown. So you took a huge gamble.
And we already know, I mean, the Nuggets kind of forced him to now be played. Like they have Malone doesn't like playing.
But I'm saying, if he gets to a certain point, he's a success. But that's a question mark. LeBron James is a question
His
mark.
highest upside is what, 4th round value maybe, but like
Exactly.
And it's going to be inconsistent. I
love the Jaren Jackson pick because he's basically Porzingis, and he got him at the right spot. That's where Jaren Jackson should have gone. The problem
I just think shouldn't
have taken that when you and Boogie and Michael Porter and DeJounte Murray.
It's just all these risks.
Because the biggest thing is he's the worst. Again, he is great at assists and great at steals, and he basically punted points somehow. But when he punted those points, he didn't get the field goal percentage guys that he needed to, or the rebound guys to assist Harrell. I mean, he should have gotten a guy like Montrezl Harrell. Get that field goal, get those points, get those. He didn't get any of those guys that are just getting like raw numbers. And so it's just like, I don't know what he's going to do. He's going to make trades. We know Sandeep is going to make trades.
He has to. His team is just, I don't get it. I don't know what his goal was. I think he just said, oh, I like this player. And then he picked him. It didn't make sense. He's not elite in any category almost except for assist. The only thing I liked is the pairing of Jokic and LeBron.
Yep.
Out of position.
That's why I like the LeBron
assist.
pick.
It's the only thing I like about his draft.
The other problem with his team, and this is real deep cut, Jokic, George, and LeBron James are always traditionally, not LeBron James usually, but those two and LeBron James this year are all slow starters.
Yeah.
And then you combine Jaren Jackson is hurt and Michael Porter is effectively in his second year, and DeMarcus Cousins has come back from an injury. Your first 6 round, like Sandeep's going to take some hits on the chin if he keeps this team the first 4 weeks. That's the problem, is he compounded 6 slow starters together.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, by the end of Sandeep might have been drafting for the playoffs, but you got to get there first.
Yeah.
I'm going to give Sandeep. I'm going to give Sandeep a C minus, D.
I gave him a D. Gave him a D.
I'm going to go with C minus.
The only reason he's not getting an F is because of Jokic.
Okay, David. I got a whole little thing on David. Let's go with David. Dave, your model likes David a little bit more than mine. My model has David as a pretty good field goal percentage team, 4th. Pretty good free throw percentage, 6th. 5th in blocks, 4th, or 6th in blocks, 5th in assists, and just terrible in every counting stat. 3 points, rebounds, steals, turnovers, all bad. And we'll kind of see why in a second. But what are your general thoughts on David's draft?
I'm going to be honest. I can't be unbiased. I hate Trae Young. I think he's miserable. I hate watching him. I don't like him. I don't like his hair. I don't like anything about him. I don't like. I would never draft him if he was number 21. If he came to me at 22, I would not have drafted him. That's how much I don't like. That said, I think going Trae Young into Zach LaVine is good. I will say Trae Young did average 29.5, 9 assists. I don't even care.
1 steal. I'm saying 3.5. He is in every definition a first round value.
Right. No, I get that.
His numbers last year, if Curry gets to 29.9 and a little bit more threes, instead of 3.5, and the steal, everybody's happy. The only difference between Trae Young and Steph Curry, and even Trae Young and a little bit of Damian Lillard, I mean, Trae's a little bit more just volume and high thing, is the field goal percentage. It was bad field goal percentage, but you can live with that when you're getting that shit. And also his league leading turnovers.
Right.
I am
interested to see how he does now that he has better players on his team with Bogdan and Gallinari. I think he's probably still going to put up similar numbers. I just,
And I don't have a problem.
I'm just biased.
I don't like Fred VanVleet all that much.
He's one of the picks that I'm just like, he's fine. I don't think he's getting better. I think he's getting the exact same. Like, he's fine. I think people are just liked him
Oh.
because he got this contract, and he's just like, oh, Fred VanVleet's so good, and I'm just like, yeah, he's
So
whatever.
here's my problem with David's draft, and I took some time for this, David. So I want you to appreciate it. David's big move was he traded his 16th pick to Sandeep for the 32 and the 41, and he had to give up a 6th-round pick, but who cares? So that means after that trade, he had the 32, the 33, the 40, the 41. So he had 4 picks and basically this really concentrated 9-pick thing where there was a lot of talent. He then made 3 more trades. Okay. And once he was done with those 3 trades, he had the 34, the 36, the 37, the 43, and he had moved up a very little amount in the 5th and the 7th. So he made all these trades to basically move back in those rounds and not get them. But then he made another trade. And so at the end of the day, he started with after one trade, he had the 32, the 33, the 40, the 41, and he gave up his 6th-round pick to get there. He ended up with the 34, the 36, the 37, the 41, and he lost his 6th, and he had to fall back 7 picks in the 7th round to do it. And he picked with those picks, LaVine, VanVleet, Sabonis, Ingram. He could have had Gobert, LaVine, Ingram, and then his choice of Fred VanVleet or Jamal Murray or somebody better. And he did all these trades and he didn't get anything out of it. He actually lost his 6th-round pick and he traded back to do it. So he did all these trades. All he needed to do in those trades was pick up more end of the round picks. He needed to move up more in the back end. So he did all these trades he churned nothing. And that was his problem. He lost value and then he did not pick up any value when he was assisting people moving up to get specific players. And so for all those trades, they didn't give him value. That was the problem he had. My favorite pick was he traded his 2nd for the 3rd and 4th because Zach LaVine could have easily gone not where he was in the 2nd, but at the back end of the 2nd. Because if you taken Zach LaVine over Donovan Mitchell or Paul George, I think it's defensible.
Yeah, mid-20s somewhere.
So you basically still got Zach LaVine, the guy that you wanted, and you get Brandon Ingram in the 4th. I think that's a great 3rd and 4th trade. I think it was a great trade. My least favorite pick of his is Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson's a block specialist, but the Knicks signed Nerlens Noel. There's a timeshare there. And if Mitchell Robinson,
I don't know how much of a tie. I think Mitchell Robinson's still going to get the majority of the minutes. I actually don't mind the Robinson and Bryant pick because it fills out his team in a stat that he needs. I don't know. I don't like are actually his last 2 picks. Killian Hayes and Baisley don't do anything. He's going to drop them in the first week. They don't do anything.
Yeah, I don't have a problem as much with that. I don't like Mitchell Robinson for his team because you gave up Rudy Gobert to draft Sabonis,
right?
Who's not a blocker, and then you went and got a block that's a pure block that literally does nothing but blocks. And there's a chance he doesn't get, and he's.
Although I think pairing Trae Young and LaVine with a Gobert, because another thing of Gobert's stats is he'll go. I don't think that's actually a great.
That's where I agree, but then that's when we got Mitchell Robinson. If Mitchell Robinson doesn't get you 2.2 blocks, he almost is unrosterable because he's so bad at everything else.
Yeah.
And Thomas Bryant doesn't get a lot of blocks. Thomas Bryant is just a 3-point center, which is why he fell, rightfully so. I just think that's the thing is like he doesn't have any big man at all outside of Sabonis that are really that good. So that's the problem I had with his team, and the fact that he did all these trades that didn't give him anything. And he traded up, like for example.
I actually think his team would look a little bit better if he actually took real players at 8th and 9th.
I think so, because the other thing is, remember, he traded up to get there. That was part of it. Like you want to do these trades to do that stuff, and you wanted to trade up to get those guys. You should have had picks, and drafting rookies early in the season, they're going to be available. Okay, great. You want to take a flyer on Darius Bazley? I'm not going to kill you, but like
I almost think these rookie picks are just first take hot takes. They just want the reaction in the chat. I think that's what these are. They're just like, oh, people will get hyped up for this pick.
I mean, why would you pick Darius Bazley? I took Jeremy Grant, Tyler Herro. There was just better picks down the road that you could have taken rather than these 2 rookies. Or at that point, trade up and get somebody. You had the assets. So that was where it is. And also the end of the day, I think he took some good value. his team is not well constructed. You know he's going to trade it though, but it's just the lack of construction outside the top 3 picks. It just does, there's no meshing. So,
Yeah.
I'm going to give him a B- though.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. B-.
Okay. Monstars. Man,
Johnny.
the rankings hate you, Johnny. Hate. They have you as the worst team by leaps and bounds. They have the only thing that even had they like you in is assists and a little bit of steals. Other than that, you are bottom 3 in everything.
So this starts with his first 2 picks. Yes, it's ironic to pick Durant and Westbrook, but they don't go together. Their stats don't mesh at all. Durant is about high volume efficiency. Westbrook is high volume, not efficient. Except for when he was those few weeks with the Rockets last year, but he's not going to have that same. And if he goes back to shooting threes, like his field goal is going to go down. His free throws suck. Like he has a high amount of turnovers, and he actually doesn't get a ton of defensive stats.
So KD, when he was the top of his game, was very much like AD. You could draft him and he would fit in any team. You don't need to necessarily build around his percentages. That's one of the reasons you draft him, but they fit.
I'm not saying you have to build around it.
Yeah.
It's just it didn't really make a lot of sense to go to Durant and to Westbrook.
I agree. I think KD was a little bit overdrafted, but necessarily what I do like though.
I don't mind him overdrafting KD.
I like the Westbrook Ja pairing. I actually like that a lot because I think Ja's going to take a step up. I think Westbrook might take a step back points, but I think Westbrook is going to try and get a lot of assists. I think that's good. I think Jamal Murray adding that in is okay. The picks where I have some of the not problems with, well, I think the reason that I actually like the rankings a lot more than Johnny's team a lot more than the rankings do, because he took 4 home run picks or attempted home run picks. He's hoping if KD comes back and he's kind of a shell of himself or not quite there, it's not a good first round pick. But if he goes back and he's in close to it, that's great value at 10.
Top 4 value, top 5 value, yeah.
If Jamal keeps being what he's been doing the last 4 years, 4th round, he didn't overdraft him, he didn't underdraft him. But if he takes a leap because of the bubble, that's great value. I think I think the John Westbrook, I like that pairing. Draymond and Oladipo.
Another home runs.
If they don't have to get back to where they were 2 years ago, but if they get 80%, 9% back there, those are home runs for those picks. Home fucking runs. So Richardson, I like Richardson pairing it with KD, and then Steven Adams, Wiggins, whatever. But I'll say this: John's going to have to move.
He has to
get KD or Westbrook, and I would pair Westbrook. I would either get rid of KD if he hits. If he's back, Johnny, if you're listening to this, get rid of KD and get great value for him if he gets back. Because the rest of your team, and you just need to.
He needs center depth. He needs.
Yep.
So Draymond Green could suck and is injured. Steven Adams, I don't know what he's going to do in New Orleans. That's it. If either of those guys are out, he can't play someone at center. And if you're just playing Steven Adams at center and that's all you have, you're screwed. You can't do anything. He needs some center depth. He's going to have to pick stuff off the waiver. He's going to have to drop with Richardson or Wiggins. He's got to get another big man.
I think this is though, not looking at it together. I liked all of Johnny's picks. I think KD was a little bit of a reach, but I at least understood it. I actually don't mind Westbrook where he is. Westbrook is always a raw numbers guy, and you can always trade him for somebody because somebody's going to want his raw numbers. I think Ja is a great pick. Again, if you keep John Westbrook, I love that pairing. If Murray blows up, that's my point. You've got individuals, but you don't have a team, and you need to trade. And I would wait a week or two and maybe take your lumps just to see.
Here's another problem I have, and this is where the rankings show out. He's not elite in literally any category, and I think that's just
spread out.
There's just an inherent problem with how if you build your team like that, you're never going to win big. Really,
I disagree with some of the rankings. I think he should be much better in points than he is. He's lead in assists. I think he'd be much better in points.
The problem is he has Green and Steven Adams, and you think of Jamal Murray as a scorer, but he's only averages 18.
That's my point. So Jamal Murray makes a move, but honestly, he can go in the waiver wire and get an 18-point score and drop.
And Westbrook's scoring has dropped.
Yeah,
and he's gonna be playing. So he really only has Durant as.
But I mean, go look at. Let's just compare this to Lillard.
I don't.
Cream like Sohail's team, who is
Now Aiton's going to score 20. Lillard scores 30. Middleton's 20. Brown's 20.
That's my point. If KD is 25, Westbrook, Morant, Murray are all 20s too. So it's not that far off from the thing. That's why I disagree with the rankings. If Durant's back to 25, the next three guys are at least 20, and Murray could be more.
I think his bottom half of his team just doesn't score.
But the bottom half, I'm saying, is bottom half, especially like Wiggins is different. I mean, there's guys in the waiver wire you can pick up some points, and if Oladipo. The problem is the rankings have Oladipo scoring 14 to 15 points. If Oladipo gets back to scoring, not necessarily 22, 23, 24 points, but if he gets 20 points, that's fine. Josh Richardson might score some more points. I think the projections are down on some of those guys. That's why I don't hate his team as much, and I like each individual team. And you can, again, Draymond Green, if he is giving you your stocks, if he's giving you threes, blocks, and and steals, he's like Robert Covington. He's a third, fourth round pick. Because if you get 1 3, 1 block, and 1 steal, you are an elite top 50 player, and everybody will take your lumps for you. So that's what you're hoping Draymond is, and he's not resting every other game. So I'm going to give Johnny a B. I like the individuals team. I hate his team.
I was going to give him a C+, but
okay, we're getting there. So inside stuff, Mark. Okay. My projections love Mark.
So do mine.
He is elite in turnovers, elite in threes, and top 5 in blocks, rebounds, field goals, free throws. And then he's not bad. He's right in the middle of the pack in points and steals. His only bad category would be assists.
Yes, I have him. It's similar here. He's top 5 almost across the board, and he's just a very balanced team and good at everything, not just mediocre.
But then I look at his draft and I'm like, how the fuck did he do this? Like,
right. You don't look at his team and you're like, oh, this team's great. It's just like exactly.
Jason
Tatum, look at his team and it's like, oh, okay.
Kawhi Leonard. Okay, if he plays, great per game, but how much is he going to play?
How much is he really going to play? That's
not going to go up in Milwaukee. He's going to be whatever. Christian Wood, we'll talk about him in a little bit. CJ McCollum is what he is. JV is what he is. Derek White is what he is. Laura Marker might take a little hit. PJ White. I was looking at him like, okay, I like this guy.
Honestly, one of the notes I had was, I think he could have afforded to take a risk somewhere here in these middle rounds.
Well, I think that's the thing. Christian Wood is his risk. Because Christian Wood, and I mean, so tonight in the preseason, he had a 27, whatever that monster game he had.
Yeah.
But like before that, it's like Christian Wood could just be a guy that does like 10-10 and whatever. Christian
could just be Capella numbers, I guess. Maybe a little worse in the field goal. I don't know.
Tatum was safe, but I think Tatum is not a true first rounder. He's just a safe first rounder. Kawhi getting him in the second round and pairing with Tatum was great. That goes back to that small forward strength that he has. He's now locked down his top 2 positions in the weakest thing.
Yeah.
And this is where you see he's like, I'm going to punt assists. Drew Holiday was fine, and he's basically a good point guard for a punt assist team. The CJ McCollum, same thing. I think CJ McCollum, the 5th, is just, even if his scoring goes down, he's elite threes, elite percentages, good points.
He's a 5th round pick every year, and he's always good at that value. He's always good.
You sure he's not a 2nd round pick? Guys, I've heard for years he's a 2nd round pick.
CJ McCollum? I haven't heard that.
There's a long running in the chat about how CJ is a 2nd round pick. He's never a 2nd round pick. And people have picked him in the 2nd round pick just to annoy me. JV is good, especially early in the season with Jaren Jackson out.
Yes.
Derek White. I like Lauri Markkanen at the 8th because if he takes a step up, great. If you're not, you can drop his ass.
Yeah.
So, but like for a team that the rankings love so much, I was like,
I still think it's a good draft. I think
his best pick is CJ McCollum. His most controversial is the Drew, Kawhi, and 2nd and 3rd, just how much they're going to rest. And his worst, I don't think it's bad, is Christian Wood because it's a huge gamble.
Yeah, I think his draft's pretty good. B+.
I'm fine with that. Okay, now we get to the co-managers, Justin and Andrew. My rankings have them as the second best team behind only Amoa.
My rankings have him the best team.
Yes.
So I think this is one of the better teams.
They have elite field goal percentage. They have elite rebounds. They have elite steals. They have elite blocks. They have elite 3-pointers. They are pretty good in turnovers. Their only down categories are points, assists, and they're not terrible at free throws, but they're not good at free throws.
Yeah. I think now Embiid really let me down last year. All his stats did, especially his defensive stats, which has me the most concerned. Even though he's still good defensively in real life, in fantasy, he just took a huge hit. And now maybe that turns around with
So I'm
Doc.
looking at, I got his stats up here on the screen share. He took a 4-point hit on points. He took a 2-point hit on rebounds. He took a half a point blocks. His field goal percentage.
So look at his blocks, though. It just continues. 2.5, 1.8, 1.9, then 1.3. Like his blocks are in half from 4 years ago. Like, is that like an injury thing? Is that athletic?
But taking 23, 11, 1.3 with a shot.
I don't think, but there's a reason he's fallen.
Yeah.
Like if you get his numbers, even the year before his 18, 19 numbers, he's getting picked in that elite tier.
Yeah.
Not in the top 3, but like in that 4 to 9 range. And he just fell, and I don't know why, and I don't know if he's going to get back there. Now, what I like that he did to fill that out is he got Gobert and Nurkic, which are at good values too, I think.
That trade, so they traded for they had their Irving pick, and they got they traded for Irving and Nurkic with Julian. That was the trade. They basically gave up their 13 to get 24 and 25, and I love that because they took Kyrie. They could have taken Levine or Mitchell, or they could have taken the equivalent of Devin Booker or 90% of that, and they had Kyrie, who if healthy is probably better fantasy than Devin Booker. And then you added Nurkic, and they swooped in because David's like, I don't like anybody here, and they got Gobert, who fell. And it's like, oh,
he fell too much. That was their best pick, I feel.
It was having those 3 centers lets you dominate the center positions, but also spin one off. Whether that's they spin off Joel Embiid in a superstar trade, or they spin off Gobert to pick up something they need. That was the best part of
I think
that draft.
He filled out his threes and his points really well with Irving, Russell, and Hield. Even though Hield, who knows what's going to happen in Sacramento?
Hield is just the biggest question mark for the entire draft.
But I still think he's going to get the same stats wherever he kind of gets traded to for the most part. And I still think he's going to play in Sacramento. So
the real reason I like those drafts is those last 3. So
yes, I think Anunoby has a really good upside. I like there's not a pick he take that I don't like.
Both Justin and Andrew, the real thing here is they went with 4 specials. They got Hield for the threes, just like CJ McCollum went right before him. Okay, give me a 3-point specialist. Great. OJ Anunoby gets threes and steals and gets like 0.7 blocks and might get some more playing time. Mikal Bridges, same thing. They have those guys, both of the bench will be that 3 steal block guy we're talking about. And then you get Tyler Herro, who is the hot hand. Maybe he sucks. You throw him to the thing, whatever. But for the 100th pick to get Tyler, guy like Tyler Herro, fine. So I like their team. Their punt assists, and that's the only downside there is they can't pivot to this team unless they totally rework their team.
Yeah. But
they don't need to because it's a good punt assist team.
Yeah.
Because like we said, the rankings only don't like them in points, and I feel like points are both the hardest and the easiest category to catch up on, but you could spin Gobert into a points monster. So whoever that is. So
it's clear this league I tried to trade Gobert one year and just nobody likes him in this league for some reason. I don't fully understand it. But I think he's just boring but yeah.
I'm giving him straight A.
Me too. Straight A. I thought he had they probably had the best draft. Overall draft.
With that, sir.
What are you going to give yourself an A+? Jesus.
We're not there. Don't spoil the ending. Now let's talk about the number 2 team, the Boom Shakalakas, which is you. So my rankings have you as the 4th team right behind Mark. You are the best field goal percentage team. You are the 2nd best rebound and assist team. You are elite in blocks, assists, and points. You
Yep.
suck at free throws and threes. So I don't just do rankings. So like I'm the best 3-point team at 16 average threes a game. Most of the pack is in the 13 to 10. The range. Johnny's at 10 and he's the second worst. You're at 5. Then we go to points. Or not point. Free throws. I didn't look at that as much, but like even on turnovers, you're the worst turnovers team too. Now it's a lot
Yeah.
closer, but you are so bad. You and we're gonna talk about this because we were talking the entire draft about your strategy, and you basically when you draft Anthony Davis, you can go any direction. Second, third round, you had 2 options to go. You could go on the Ben Simmons, Andre Drummond route. Which I said, if you go that route, you got to punt free throws and threes because you ain't catching up. Or the rest of the draft, you can only point threes, and that way you're only punting free throws. Or you could have gone. I think you were looking at Siakam and.
No, so I was looking at SGA and I think either like someone like a Mitchell or an Irving or
Yes, I think you were looking
somewhere.
at SGA,
I was looking at
Mitchell.
even someone like a Middleton. Those just taking 2 solid shooting guard, small forwards that match. So I'm getting really good from the numbers from AD, and
Basically, you were going to either build a roto team with Davis or you were going to go the punt route.
Yeah,
and you got Ben Simmons, Andre Drummond, who are. If you go to hashtag basketball, for example, so I got the rankings here. So if you take away field goal, we're not going to go. If you took away free throw percentage and threes, okay, this hashtag is going to show you what the rankings are. Giannis jumps number 1. Anthony Davis is number 2. Ben Simmons is 4, and Andre Drummond is 5. So that means for your build, you have 3 of the top 5 players for your build. And then you also will talk about Zion. Zion is a top 12.
So Zion I had as my best pick and my worst pick. Because I think getting him at 47 in his second year, the team's going to be focused around him. He's apparently in shape. I think his numbers could be monstrous, but I also think his numbers pigeonhole me so much into this punt strategy. It is going to be difficult. I have to trade like probably 3 players to unpunt.
The problem with Zion is they have him projected at 25, 8, 2.5.
Now I think his projections are. If he got that, I think it's going to be maybe closer to 22. I hope he gets 8 rebounds. That'd be awesome. I'm actually hoping he maybe takes up a step up in blocks, but the field goal percentage on the volume, I think is going to be huge.
You drafted him as a field goal percentage monster and points monster, which is actually what you needed because Ben and Andre Drummond aren't 20-point scorers. They can get there sometimes. Getting Zion to be a 20-point scorer was your thing. And that's actually my best pick for you is DeMar DeRozan. DeMar has delivered, I believe, top 40 value like the last 6 years or whatever his run has been. Top 40. And he doesn't shoot threes. So for a team that
doesn't care about threes, all of a sudden.
Again, let's go to the hashtag and see where DeMar ends up. Pretty fucking high. Oh, sorry.
He's 40.
And the reason is because he took out valued as his free throws. But like you got a 25-5 guy, and those numbers might take a hit if he gets traded, but like he's gonna get fucking playing time.
The reason I like him is because he gets a high number of assists for the small forward position. He's one of the highest.
We're talking about right there, that 50 is when the small forward drop off happened and you didn't have one. So you went out and got the best small forward for your position. And then you'll notice he's the only small forward on the roster right now. So you need to fix that. But then you got Malcolm Brogdon. You needed a point guard. I think he's safe. Kemba, I like as the pick because you can stash him if he comes back and he's healthy.
Here's where my draft went wrong. Is after I got DeRozan, I was like, sweet, I am all in on this punt. My team, I've got all the picks I want. These are the best players for the punt strategy. And then I got into the 6th round, and I was just like, there's nobody left for my punt strategy. What do I do? Like, that's why I ended up taking Matt Brogdon just for assist. And then Kemba, I was like, Kemba doesn't fit my team literally at all, but I just needed value to trade maybe or something.
The guys, you got Harrell, who's a good one.
I got Harrell, but who knows what he's really going to do with the Lakers.
Payton is a good point guard who's on the
waiver wire. I thought about picking. He's still on the waiver wire, but I already had Ben Simmons, which I don't agree with, is only a point guard. And so really, this is where my draft fell apart. Is I loved my first. I was like, oh yes, my punt strategy is going exact. I got every player I wanted, and then it gets to the 6th, and I'm just like, I can't build around my team.
I
What
don't.
do
I don't. Denise, I don't like Malcolm. Malcolm Brogdon is like Chris Middleton and Tobias Harris, and those players. They can find a point on any team because even if you're punting,
Yeah.
they're not hurting you in any categories. So even those categories aren't important. It's fine. They're just equal. They're
I
not.
just took Brogdon because he was the best assist player
Well,
available.
it was again. So when you get those guys, and I use Tobias and Middleton, Brogdon, those guys that are just even kill across the board because they don't hurt you, and that's all that matters in the punt. And so they might not be. The whole point of getting a punt is you're getting guys like DeMar and Zion and Andre Drummond at a place where they're better for your strategy, and you're getting
And not as
value.
good as for everyone. Yes, I'm getting
Brogdon
value.
is you're not getting value, but you're not hurting him. And the same thing with like Fultz. If Fultz is the starting, remember, and Fultz doesn't have DJ Augustine this year, and so if he ends up hitting as a starting point guard and averages something like 15-7 with a steal and a half, that's perfect. It doesn't shoot threes.
Yeah.
Perfect for you. And Harrell, big man, 8th round. And the Kemba pick, if Kemba hits, fine, you keep him. If not, you trade him.
One of the best things about Kemba is like, and this is why I actually rate my draft poorly is one, the last 4 rounds, and then 2, because it is so hard for me to pivot.
Yeah, you can't pivot, but that's the whole point of a punt strategy is if you want to pivot, if this doesn't work, and I've done well, I did not do well. It was the year after I won the championship. I drafted James and Green, I think in my first 2 picks or something. It didn't work. I had to blow my whole team up. But I was in last place for so long. And I blew it up. And by the time I got it working, it just took me the whole season to get there.
So I'm just telling people now, if you come at me with trades, you better start coming up with like the most complicated 4-team trades because I have to trade like 3 players.
Yeah, and you can't do it in pieces. It's got to be a total blow up. So if you come, if you come at me, just be prepared. Simmons, Drummond, and Zion all got to go basically in the same trade.
I've gotten offers for AD already, none that are good, but that's basically the only player.
I actually like your draft because it made you elite, and you are super, super duper elite in 1, 2, 3. You are top 2 in 3 categories. You are top 4 in 5 categories, which is the whole point. If you win those 5 categories every week, this many categories, you win every week.
Yeah.
And
and I think the reason I like going so elite in categories is actually for the playoffs, is because I may not be the number 1 overall team. I may end up 4th or 5th. But when I get to the playoffs, if I know I'm going to win these 5 categories, or that's all I need, then I advance in the playoffs.
These 5, the one category you can improve if you can get 16 is the points. You're good, but not great in points, and that's actually.
I actually have me at number 2 at points, but
that's why I like the
Kemba could help me a lot
on your IR and sit on him, because if he comes back and he's a 20-point scorer, there's your points, or you trade him for somebody else. That's one thing. You put him on your IR tonight. You pick up Elfrid Payton or whoever.
Yeah, I'm already picking up. I have 4 transactions.
So I'm actually giving you an A. No, that's an A. There's no pluses in my.
Really, I gave myself a C+.
You're a hard grader. Let me just say real quick, for you, I thought DeMar was your best pick. I thought your worst pick was Zion, just because
I love like the Zion pick.
Zion stats. And I think your most controversial is the Drummond Simmons. I think they're great for you, but it could end up biting you in the butt because of the non-pivot. That's why I say it's the most controversial. Okay, let's finish up this hour-and-a-half long thing with the number 3 pick, the Pittsburgh Pythons. The name's going to be changed in my draft. Few quick notes on me. I went back and forth between Harden and really Jokic because I like cheering for Jokic. Jokic's lack of points just didn't do it for me.
Yeah,
it's hard to. I didn't want to guard because I don't like Lillard's. I don't like Lillard as my centerpiece. I don't like Steph's injury history. Fuck Trae Young. And so then it's Cat or Giannis. And if I take Giannis, I know your strategy very well because I had done a lot of mocks where if I took Giannis, I was taking Simmons and Drummond in the second and third round. I didn't want to do that because same thing for you. I didn't want to be pigeonholed. So that means it was Cat or Harden. That was really what it came down to for me. And I'll just take Harden because
I honestly think, even though he's onset dad bod Harden, like his stats are so overwhelming, it's unreal. I almost think you couldn't not take
No,
Harden.
because if he is back to level, Harden has been such the best fantasy player the last few years. I'm shocked that people with Harden haven't won the championship somehow. It's
Yeah.
shocking to me, and I think it's just bad luck.
Uh, and and so actually, one of my favorite picks of yours was Vucevic in the second. I think he's the perfect pairing with Harden. He's a big man that does everything you want. Um, uh, Maybe besides the defensive stats, but
so my rankings have me as the best team because I'm the best team in threes, I'm the best team in points, I'm the best team in turnovers. I don't know how, and I'm the second best team in blocks. On top of that, I'm in the top 5 on free throws, points, and then I'm pretty good in assists. I'm pretty good in steals. I'm just the worst team in field goal percentage. I'm just a field goal punt team, and I'm actually not that bad. I'm not terrible in field goal percentage because I actually tried to get worse in field goal percentage, and you guys kept stealing all my bad field goal percentage, guys.
so where I think Donovan Mitchell is totally safe pick. I think your worst pick is Miles Turner, or most controversial one, because as you told me multiple times, there's too many mouths to feed in Indiana. Indiana doesn't even like Miles Turner.
Nope.
Like, is he going to get traded? They couldn't even trade him and somebody else for Hayward. Like, in the 4th round, I just think that was a bad pick. I think you would have been better off even taking KP there than Miles Turner. And then I know what your strategy is with your trade up, but having to trade up and then take Lonzo Ball, that's just to feel bad.
I'll hear what happened. So I took Harden, I took Vucevic and Mitchell. The plan was to take some combination of Vucevic or Nurkic as my big man, and then take Mitchell, Levine, Booker, Beal for some reason was there, or I'm missing somebody. One of Paul George. I wanted to put James Harden in another elite scorer that every game, and then I wanted a 20-point big man scorer, which that's why I wanted Vucevic first. I would have taken Nurkic because Nurkic is assist and he's a little bit better blocks, but Vucevic gives the threes. The reason so I did the trade up when I did because I didn't want to wait then and have to pay a premium. So I messaged like 7 people because I just wanted to. I said KP is going to go in the 5th round. I want to get, or the 6th. He should go in the 6th. So Mike go in the 5th. Let me get early in the 5th. Trade with Johnny. So I traded up to get KP, and especially after it was my first pick, my pick Miles. I'm like, Doug's not taking KP because it doesn't fit his team, and Julian's not going to take him because he needs to fill out his roster. And so I'm going to get him. I was going to get him on the next pick where I took Harris, and I wanted to put Turner and KP together. Now, in my defense of Turner's averaged 2 blocks basically every year since his rookie year, and then he's averaged the last 3 years he's at a 3. So I basically drafted him for two categories: threes and blocks.
Yeah, but the problem is like, now at the same side of that, I love your Brook Lopez pick because he gets you those same numbers almost. So that's why I'm just like,
I picked Tobias Harris because he was just safe stat filler, and because he is the best like LeBron James level rebounding small forward. That's why I specifically was targeting Harris.
I also don't know. I mean, Lonzo Ball could be okay. I don't know. I just don't.
Lonzo Ball I'm already punting.
Picking him 58 is ugh.
Well, so here's the thing: if you remove him from a field goal percentage team, his terrible field goal percentage, he is good rebounds, good assists, good steal. He's basically Rookie Rubio 2.0.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where Rookie Rubio should be picked every year, 5th and 6th round when he was healthy. That's why I picked him, because his field goal percentage is garbage, but I don't care about field goal percentage. And then I took Brook. And then the last,
I think Brook Lopez was maybe your best pick at 75. Yeah. I like your Jeremy Grant, and I think RJ Barrett's a great flyer. You can easily drop him. Jeremy Grant is another one that you can easily drop.
Those are both flyers. If they don't hit, they'll be gone. But I like my team because once I drafted Harden, I said field goals out the window, and I want threes and blocks and points, and I want to not be terrible in assists. That's why I needed Lonzo Ball.
I just feel like instead of Turner, I think you needed to shore up rebounds maybe, and somewhere I think you could fill up your rebounds somewhere better than like a Turner or
That's even your projections have me lower on the rebounds. Mine have me a little bit higher. And I actually think, so I look at it this way. Harris is one of the best at his position for rebounding. Lonzo Ball is one of the best at his position for rebounding. And so part of it is at some point doing it. And I agree. But that's why I also got Miles Turner and Brooke Lopez.
And
just for that, I have blocked
for
out
having
of-
James Harden, your turnovers are actually I have you fifth, which is a little surprising. But I guess you don't really have another point guard
just Lonzo.
besides Lonzo. So
That's the thing. Vucevic doesn't get turnovers.
yeah,
Turner doesn't get it. Lopez, Harris. That I went with guys. I actually.
but you are worst in field goal on mine.
That was the
makes
plan.
sense. Yeah.
I'm giving myself an A+. You can go fuck yourself.
I'm giving you a B.
My projections have. I'm just saying. So my power projections.
I'd probably actually a B plus, maybe an A minus. There's no way you're an A plus.
So the reason is my projections have me 78. The next team is 69 points, which is Justin and Andrew, and then Mark is 67. You're 65.
I think you built a good James Harden team.
My projections have me by the number one team.
That's
by far.
You also have you seen James Harden's belly right now? We don't know what he's gonna do.
If he throws up 30,
what if he gets traded? What if he gets traded to the Nets?
Here's the thing: if he takes a step back and he throws up 37-7, 37-7, that's all step back in all his numbers, and he shoots 3.5 threes.
I'm still thinking you have to pick. Yeah, I still think you have to pick him, but it's just I don't know. And who knows if he gets traded?
If he gets traded and he gets with Embiid and he's all like, "Ooh, I'm going to be all super awesome now."
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, we graded you. You're fine. Best picks overall. I have Beal at 21, Gobert at 32. I had Zion at 47, even though and I like Jokic at 8. I thought that was the best pick. I thought that was just really good because I like Jokic and I think he's arguably top 5. Worst picks. We didn't actually talk about it. I don't like Cousins at 65. I thought that was a very bad pick. LaMelo Ball at 92 is the worst pick in the draft. Killian Hayes and Darius Bazley at 96, 97. Even though that guy had a good draft, he had 2 of the worst picks. Yeah, that was it. I actually don't think there's many bad picks in this draft, which is a little surprising because
we didn't have to go dumpster diving. I don't think there's bad picks. I think there were 2. I think everybody came in with one of 2 strategies. Either build a specific team, which I think you did, I did, Mark did, and Justin Andrew did, which is why the 4 of us are at the top of the rankings. We have a coherent team that we're elite and stuff, and we've punted stuff, or we have solid teams. Other people, like I think Chris and some of the other teams that drafted, simply drafted best available talents.
Yeah.
And the team as is doesn't work, but they have good assets and they need to spin them off and do trades. So
yes, there's quite a few teams that can, with the right trades, can easily jump us.
I think the perfect example is Johnny. I like Johnny's individual teams. The rankings fucking hate him, and your team will get destroyed every week, Johnny, as is constructed. But you have talent. Move that shit. You have to do right math.
You have to have a strategy. Don't just target players you like. That's
why I like Chris's. Even though Chris's doesn't have a great coherent team, I like Chris's pieces.
Mm-hmm.
If Chris starts spinning off pieces, he can and getting good value return. That's when you start building the team. So the draft is over, but the season has just begun.
Yep.
Well, I mean, it's kind of begun. You guys should just write out a check and be like, for Bradford, the best fantasy manager ever. Thank you. The end.
Oh man, I hope I hope Harden gets caught with a stripper like in a suite, just with cocaine on his nose, and just is like.
I'm not gonna suspend him.
But yeah, I don't know. Cool. That was good.
Now let's see if I hopefully when I stop this, we don't lose the recording. How does this work? Let's see. Stop share.
If you didn't record that, that's going to be miserable.
It's been recording, so now I'm gonna